This production of Christmas Carol is brought to you by Understudy. Understudy helps actors prepare for roles by giving them innovative tools to manage their sides, rehearse their lines, get feedback, and collaborate with other actors. To try Understudy for free, visit try.understudy.app or download Understudy on the App Store. Understudy. It's showtime.
Merry Christmas.
Bah! Humbug! Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? Good God! I'm mortal and liable to fall.
What is going on?
£1 fish. Very, very good, very, very cheap. Salts!
Salts? Whatever could a man do with salts? Sixpence on salts, can you imagine?
Don't stare, dear. Come over here.
Marley was dead, to begin with. There is no doubt about that. But he was survived by his business partner, a one Ebeneezer Scrooge.
Oh, sorry, sir.
How dare you! Have you no eyes? I will speak to your lord.
Scrooge was Marley's sole executor, his sole assign, his sole friend, and his sole mourner. After his death, Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name. There it stood years later above the office door. The firm was known as Scrooge and Marley. Sometimes people new to the business called Scrooge, and sometimes Marley. But he answered to both names. It was all the same to him.
Excuse me, Mr. Scrooge. Can I get your signature on this document?
Speak up, man. If you want to waste my time in mumbling your words, I may as well save myself the 2 shilling a day and leave you unemployed. What is it you need?
Your signature, sir. My apologies, Mr. Scrooge. I am so very cold and cannot keep my teeth from chattering.
By all means, Cratchit. If you would like to bring some of your own coal with you to keep you warm, feel free.
Oh, no, sir, it's fine.
But I will not be wasting my resources on your desire for greater comfort.
Of course, Mr. Scrooge. I will be fine without. Thank you for the signature.
Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you! Hello, Bob.
Hello, Fred. Merry Christmas.
Bah! Humbug!
Christmas a humbug, Uncle? You don't mean that, I'm sure.
I do. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
Come then. What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough.
Bah! Humbug!
Don't be cross, Uncle.
What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas. Out upon Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money, a time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer? If I could work my will, every idiot who goes with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled in his own pudding and buried with a stick of holly through his heart. He should.
Uncle!
Nephew, keep Christmas in your own way. Let me keep it in mine.
Keep it, but you don't keep it, Uncle.
Then let me leave it alone. Much good it has done you. Much good may it ever do you.
There are many things from which I might have derived good, by which I never profited, I dare say. For Christmas, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe it has done me good. And I say God bless it. Please, Uncle, come dine with us tomorrow.
You cannot afford to keep yourself and your wife, and yet you offer me a seat at your table? Your foolishness knows no bounds. Good afternoon.
You cannot know how I keep myself and my wife since you have never come to visit. I want nothing of you. I ask nothing of you. Why cannot we be friends?
Good afternoon.
I am sorry, with all my heart, to find you so resolute. I have made this trial in homage to Christmas, and in memory of my dear mother. And your ill spirit will not spoil my Christmas humor. So, a Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
And a Happy New Year. Here, Bob. Your fire seems to be nearly out. I saw the coal man round the corner before I came in. I'm sure you can still catch him. We can't have you catching a cold on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, Bob.
Oh, thank you, sir. Merry Christmas.
Him too, my clerk, going on about a Merry Christmas with a wife and children and only 15 shillings a week. I'll retire to bedlam with all this talk of a Merry Christmas.
Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead these 7 years. He died 7 years ago this very night.
Well, we have no doubt his liberality is well represented in his surviving partner.
Liberality?
At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provisions for the poor and destitute, who suffer greatly at this present time.
Many thousands are in want of common necessaries, sir. Many hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts.
Are there no prisons?
Plenty of prisons.
And the union workhouses, are they still in operation?
They are. Still, I wish I could say they were not.
I was afraid, from what you had said at first, that something had occurred to stop them from their useful course. I'm very glad to hear it.
Under the impression they scarcely furnish Christmas cheer of mind and body to the multitudes, a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt, and abundance rejoices. What shall we put you down for?
Nothing!
You wish to remain anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. I cannot afford to make idle people merry. I hope to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those that are barely off must go there.
Many can't go there. They'd rather die.
Then if they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
But, sir...
I said good afternoon. You are standing within private property. Please leave before I find a way to make you leave, gentlemen.
We will be on our way. Sorry to have bothered you, Mr. Scrooge.
Excuse me, gentlemen. It's only a shilling, but was given to me earlier and would do more good for your cause than for me. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well, sir. Thank you.
Chorus, ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan.
You want all day tomorrow off, I suppose.
If quite convenient, sir.
It's not convenient, and it's not fair. Paying a day's wages for no work.
it is only once a year, sir.
A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. I expect you to be here all the earlier the next morning.
Of course, sir. Thank you, sir. Have a merry... Well, have a good night, sir.
Now you have met our one Ebeneezer Scrooge. Delightful fellow, isn't he? That night, Christmas Eve, Scrooge carried on as he did every other night. He closed up the office and returned to his place of residence that used to belong to his partner. It is a gloomy suite of rooms down an alleyway where it had so little business being that one could scarcely help fancying it must have run away when it was a young house, playing hide-and-seek with other houses, and must have forgotten its way out again. The fog hung heavy around the building. The yard was so dark that even Scrooge, who knew its every stone, was fain to grope with his hands in order to find the front door. Now, it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about this knocker on the door, except that it was very large. It is also a fact that Scrooge had seen it night and morning during his whole residence in the place. Also, that Scrooge had as much imagination as a loaf of bread. Let it also be borne in mind that Scrooge had not bestowed one thought to Marley since his last mention of his 7-year dead partner earlier that afternoon. And so, when Scrooge approached the door and...
Good God!
Saw that the knocker had been transformed into Marley's face, he was more than a bit startled. To be clear, this was not a trick of the eye or an illusion of fog, for there was a weak light hanging above the door, making the transformation quite clear. The face appeared just as Scrooge remembered his partner in life. And while the eyes stood staring motionless ahead, there was a life to the face that was quite undeniable.
Marley?
But as quickly as the knocker had transformed, it changed back. A knocker once again. And so, being the logical person that he is, Scrooge opened the door briskly and quickly shut it behind him. With only the briefest of pauses once the door was shut, where he offered a quick glance to the back of the door as if he half expected to see the sight of Marley's pigtails sticking out into the hall. But there was nothing but the nuts and screws that held the knocker to the door.
Pooh.
And so he retreated deeper into the house, eventually finding himself safe within the confines of his own chambers. Scrooge took a moment and ensured the room was all as it should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa, a small fire in the grate, and a saucepan of gruel upon the hob. Quite satisfied, he locked himself in. Double locked himself in, which was not his custom, but it felt right on this particular night. He donned his dressing gown, slippers, and nightcap, and sat down in front of the fire to take his gruel. Just as Scrooge was getting comfortable, the event earlier in his mind slowly fading into nothing, a bell began ringing. This bell had long been forgotten and must have been used in the past to communicate through the house for some inexplicable reason. But as Scrooge observed it, it began to ring with increasing intensity, and so did every other bell in the house.
Scrooge. It's humbug still, I won't believe it!
As the cellar door flew open and a ghost appeared, Scrooge was forced to acknowledge that it was none other than his long-dead partner, Marley. The same face, the very same. The chain he drew was clasped about his middle. It was long and made of cash boxes, keys, padlocks, ledgers, deed, and heavy purses, all wrought with steel.
Oh no! What do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who are you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Humbug!
You don't believe in me.
I don't.
What evidence would you have of my reality beyond that of your senses?
I don't know.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Because a little thing affects them. A slight sort of the stomach makes them cheese. You may be an undigested bit of beef. A crumb of cheese.
At this, Scrooge attempted to look away, to ignore the apparition sitting in his bedchamber. But he could not. And as he stared at the ghostly image of his dead partner, the spirit began to take off a bandage that was wound round his head, and his lower jaw dropped down upon his breast.
Mercy! Dreadful apparition! Why do you trouble me?
Man of the worldly mind, do you believe in me or no?
I do. I must. But why do spirits walk the earth? And why do they come to me?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men and travel far and wide. And if that spirit does not go forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander through the world, oh, woe is me, and witness what it cannot share, but might have once shared while on earth.
You are fettered. Tell me, why?
I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link and yard by yard. I girded it on of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you? Or would you know the weight and length of the strong coil you bear yourself? Yours was as full and heavy and as long as this 7 Christmas Eves ago. You have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain.
Oh, Jacob Marley, please speak comfort to me, Jacob.
I have none to give, Ebeneezer Scrooge. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. A very little more is permitted me.
But you were always a good man of business, Jacob.
Business. Mankind was my business. The common welfare should have been my business. Why did I walk through the crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down and never raise them to see what was right in front of me? Hear me. My time is nearly gone.
I will, but don't be hard upon me, Jacob.
I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a hope of escaping my fate. You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
I think I'd rather not.
Without their visits, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first spirit when the bell tolls 1.
Couldn't I have them all at once and just get it over with, Jacob?
Expect the second spirit at the next hour, and the third just after that. Look to see me no more, and look, for your own sake, you must remember what has passed between us.
Wait, Jacob! What are the nature of these other ghosts? Please, Marley, will they appear as you have, or...
The rest of Scrooge's questioning stopped as Marley descended back into the cellar. Scrooge crossed to the door through which the ghost had entered and confirmed that it was still double-locked, the bolts undisturbed. Given the events of the day, he could not complete the saying of humbug, and instead, feeling the fatigue of the day, he collapsed upon his bed and fell asleep in an instant.
What time is it? 12? Why, it can't be. This is impossible.
The idea of midnight being an alarming one, Scrooge scrambled out of bed and groped his way to the window. He was obliged to rub the frost off with the sleeve of his dressing gown before he could see anything. But he could see very little even then. All he could make out was that it was still very foggy and extremely cold, and that there was no noise of people running to and fro.
Bah! Humbug!
Scrooge went to bed again, and he thought and thought and thought. Marley's ghost bothered him exceedingly. Every time he resolved within himself that it was all a dream, his mind flew back again, like a strong spring released to its first position. Scrooge lay in this state until the chime had gone 4 quarters more, when he remembered that the ghost had warned him of a visitation when the bell tolled 1. He resolved to lie awake until the hour was past.
1/4 past. 1/2 past. 1/4 to it. The hour itself, and nothing else. Perhaps it was all a dream. Heavens! What on earth?
Slowly, the curtains of Scrooge's bed were drawn aside by a small hand, and Scrooge found himself face to face with an unearthly visitor. It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man viewed through some supernatural medium.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
What business has brought you here?
Your welfare.
Well, I'm much obliged, Spirit, but cannot help thinking that a night of unbroken rest would be more conducive to me in the end.
Your reclamation, then. Take heed. indeed. Rise and walk with me.
Spirit's grasp, though gentle as a child's hand, was not to be resisted. Scrooge slowly rose, but finding that the spirit made towards the window, he clasped his robe in supplication.
I beg you, Spirit. I'm immortal and liable to fall.
Bear but a touch of my hand, and you shall be upheld in more than this.
As the words were spoken, Scrooge felt his feet begin to leave the ground. Suddenly, Scrooge found himself standing upon an open country road with fields on either side. The city had entirely vanished, and not a vestige to be seen. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it too, for it was now a clear, cold winter day with snow upon the ground. A little market town appeared in the distance with its bridge, its church, and its winding river.
Why, good heavens, Spirit! I was born in this place.
Scrooge was conscious of 1,000 odors floating in the air, each one connected with 1,000 thoughts and hopes and joys and cares long, long forgotten.
I was a boy here, Spirit.
Your lip is trembling. And what is that upon your cheek?
Oh, it's nothing. Nothing at all. Lead me where you will, Spirit.
Do you recollect the way?
Do I recollect it? Why, I could walk it blindfolded.
Strange to have stayed away for so many years. Let us go on.
Why, that's Master Fenton's house. There, in the distance. And that hill is where my sister Fan and I used to play blind man's bluff.
Try and catch me, Ebeneezer. Oh, where are you, Fan?
Scrooge recognized every gate, every post, every tree. He had tread this path 1,000 times and felt as though no time had passed at all.
Come on, Winston.
Why, that's Philip and Peter
I'm
and
coming.
dear
I'm
little
coming.
Winston.
These are but the shadows of the things that have been. They have no consciousness of us.
Hurry up, Winston, or you'll never catch 'em.
Why was Scrooge overjoyed beyond all bounds to see them? Why did his cold eyes glisten and his heart leap up as they went past? Why was he filled with gladness when he heard them each give each other a Merry Christmas as they parted for their several homes?
Come, there is still much to see.
They left the high road and slowly made their way towards a boarding school of dull red brick.
I remember this house, Spirit. It is a house of broken fortunes. Is there not a chilly barrenness here, Spirit? One that I associate with too little food and too little sleep.
They went, the ghost and Scrooge, across the hall to a bare, melancholy room at the back of the house. The room was filled with long benches and desks, but no students, save for a lonely boy reading near a feeble fire.
Do you recognize this young boy?
Oh, Spirit, I could weep to see my poor forgotten self as he used to be. The latent echoes of this house fall upon my heart with a softening influence. I wish, but it is too late now.
What is the matter?
There was a boy singing a carol at my door last night. I would have liked to have given him something.
Come, let us see another Christmas.
Scrooge's former self grew larger at the words, and the room became a little darker and more dirty. The panels shrunk, the windows cracked, and fragments of plaster fell from the ceiling. When the transformation was complete, the Spirit and Scrooge stood outside a brick facade with a sign that read Fezziwig and Company.
Do you know this place, Ebeneezer?
Know it? Why, I was apprenticed in that building right there.
Come, let us journey inside.
Spirit, as a young man, I spent many a day and night in this establishment. I apprenticed under the most jovial man. Why, there he is! It's old Fezziwig himself! Bless his heart. Fezziwig, alive again.
Yo-ho there! Ebeneezer! James!
Why, Spirit, that's me. As a young man. There's James Wilkins, to be sure.
Yo-ho, my boys! No more work tonight. It's Christmas Eve. Let us have the shutters up before a man can say Jack Robinson. Clear away, my lads.
But, sir, I've been going over these accounts. Are you certain you'd care to spend this much money for a holiday party?
Oh, my dear Ebeneezer, you must remember that we are amidst the season for goodwill and generosity of spirit. May we carry it with us all year round. Please, my dear boy, do your best to enjoy yourself this evening. Now, let us clear away this furniture.
Yes, sir.
Over there, Spirit. Do you see that old man? Why, that's Tom. He would play the fiddle at all of Fezziwig's parties. Why, he would tune his instrument like 50 stomach aches.
Nigel?
And there is Mrs. Fezziwig along with 3 Miss Fezziwigs.
Have you seen Papa, Mother?
Oh, darling, he's in here. Merry Christmas, my love.
Papa.
Oh, it's so good to see you.
And here come the guests.
Ebeneezer, over here. My dear boy, have you met my niece Belle?
Oh, Belle. I cannot say that I've had the pleasure, Mr. Fezziwig. Hello, Belle. I am Ebeneezer.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I've heard so much about you from my uncle.
Well, I can assure you that anything I've accomplished of note is thanks to your uncle. There is no better teacher in the whole of the city than him.
Oh, I see what you're up to. Perhaps hoping for your next raise with all this flattery.
No.
I jest. Now, go on, you two. The dancing is about to start, and I must find Mrs. Fezziwig.
Belle, would you care to dance?
I was hoping you would ask.
If there had been twice as many dances, 4 times, old Fezziwig would have been a match for them. So would Mrs. Fezziwig, for she was worthy to be his partner in every sense of the term. And if that's not high praise, well, tell me higher and I'll use it.
Well done! Well done, everyone!
A small matter to make these silly folks so full of gratitude.
Small?
Why is it not? He has spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves this praise?
It isn't that, Spirit. Fezziwig has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. Say that his power lies in words and looks and things so slight and insignificant that it is impossible to add and count them up. What then? The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune. That reminds me.
What is the matter?
Nothing. Nothing particular. I should just like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk, Bob Cratchit. That is all.
My time grows short, but there is yet one more Christmas for you to see. A holiday, I believe, spent with Belle.
Please, Spirit, spare me that memory.
Scrooge saw himself again, now a man in the prime of life. His face had not the harsh and rigid lines of later years, but it had begun to wear the signs of greed and avarice. He was not alone.
It matters little to you that another idol has displaced me, and if it can cheer and comfort you in the time to come, I have no just cause to grieve.
What idol has displaced you?
A golden one.
This is the even-handed dealing of the world. There is nothing so hard as poverty, and there is nothing that condemns it with such severity as the pursuit of wealth.
You fear the world too much. All of your other hopes have merged into the goal of being beyond reproach. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one.
Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I'm not changed towards you, am I?
Our contract is an old one. When it was made, you were another man.
I was just a boy.
You are not what you once were. But I still am. That which promised happiness when we were one in heart is fraught with misery now that we are two. I release you.
Have I ever sought release?
In words, no. but in a changed nature, in altered spirit, in everything that made my love of any worth or value to you. If this engagement had never been between us, tell me, would you seek me out and try to win me now?
Perhaps not.
I would gladly think otherwise if I could. But if you were free today, tomorrow, can I believe that you would choose a penniless girl? I release you, Ebeneezer, with a full heart, for the love of him that you once were. May you be happy in the life you have chosen.
Spirit, please. Show me no more. Why do you delight to torture me?
I told you. These are the shadows of the things that have been. That they are what they are, do not blame me.
No more. Please. No more. Conduct me home.
Scrooge was suddenly overcome by an irresistible drowsiness, which gave way to the knowledge that he was back in his bedchamber. He gave the spirit's hand a parting squeeze, in which his own hand relaxed. He barely had time to reel to bed before he sank into a heavy sleep. Scrooge awoke with a start and shot straight up in his bed.
Oh no. What time is it?
When the bell struck 2 and no shape appeared, Scrooge was taken with a violent fit of trembling. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a quarter of an hour passed, yet nothing came. Slowly, Scrooge got out of the bed and shuffled softly to the door. With a deep breath, he opened the door to the sitting room and let out a gasp. The walls and ceiling were hung with living green, and gleaming berries glistened from each branch. A mighty blaze roared in the hearth, and before him sat a throne of sustenance, poultry, game, long wreaths of sausages, minced pies, plum puddings, cherry-cheeked apples, juicy oranges, luscious pears, immense cakes, and seething bowls of punch made the chamber dim with their colourful display. In easy state upon this couch sat a jolly giant, glorious to behold.
Come in! Come in and know me better, man! I am the ghost of Christmas present. Have you never seen the likes of me before?
Never. But conduct me where you will. I went forth earlier by compulsion and have learned many lessons. If you intend to teach me, let me profit by it.
Touch my robe!
They arrived at the threshold of a small dwelling on the outskirts of the city.
I'm not familiar with this place, Spirit. Where are we?
Why, this is the home of your clerk, one Bob Cratchit. Shall we go forth?
The spirit smiled as they entered the home.
Be careful, Lucy. Don't push your brother. And Peter, keep an eye on those potatoes.
Mother! Mother! Matthew and I smelt the goose. We smelt the Christmas goose outside the bakery.
Such a scene lay before Scrooge and the spirit. Mrs. Cratchit, in a twice-turned gown and a goodly show of ribbons, was setting the table with her daughter, Belinda. Young Peter, per his mother's instructions, was plunging a fork into the saucepan of potatoes, while the 2 smallest Cratchits, Lucy and Matthew, danced about the room.
Where on earth is your father and your brother, Tiny Tim? And poor Martha wasn't this late last Christmas Day. Perhaps she couldn't get the goose.
Here's Martha, Mother. I see her through the window, and there's such a goose.
Martha!
Martha!
Why, bless your heart alive, my dear. How late you are. But never mind, so long as you are here. Sit down before the fire, my dear, and warm yourself.
Thank you. We had a deal of work to finish up this morning.
Look, Father's coming, and Tiny Tim. In came Mr. Cratchit, wearing his finest threadbare clothes, with Tiny Tim perched upon his shoulder. Alas, for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch and had his limbs supported by an iron frame.
Martha, my dear, I'm so glad to see you. Home on Christmas Day.
Father, I've missed you. And Tiny Tim, please take my seat by the fire.
Bob? And how did little Tim behave?
As good as gold and better. He grows thoughtful sitting by himself so much. On the way home, he told me that he hoped the people in church saw him so that on Christmas Day they would remember who made lame beggars walk and blind men see.
Oh, Bob.
Mother! Father! We're all gathered. Shall we finish preparing the feast?
It's time to eat! Let's eat! Let's eat!
Such a bustle ensued that you might have thought a goose the rarest of all birds. Mrs. Cratchit made the gravy, Master Peter mashed the potatoes with incredible vigor, Miss Belinda sweetened up the applesauce, Martha dusted the hot plates, Bob sat beside Tiny Tim at the center of the table, and the two young Cratchits set chairs for everybody. At last, the dishes were set and grace was said.
A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us.
God bless us. God bless us, everyone.
Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim would live.
I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
No, kind spirit. Please say he will be spared.
If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none will find him here. What then? If he be like to die, he'd better do it and decrease the surplus population.
Oh, Spirit, I'm overcome with penitence and grief.
Mr. Scrooge, I give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
To Mr. Scrooge.
The founder of the feast, indeed. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon, and I hope he'd have a good appetite for it.
My dear, the children. It's Christmas Day.
It should be Christmas Day, I'm sure, on which one drinks to the health of such an odious, stingy, hard, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. I'll drink to his health for your sake, but not for his. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt.
No doubt.
They were not a handsome family. They were not well dressed, and their shoes were far from fancy. But they were happy, grateful, loving to one another, and contented with the time. Scrooge had his eye upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the very last.
Come. There is more to see.
By this time, it was beginning to grow dark. The brightness of the roaring fires in kitchens and parlors was wonderful to witness from the street. Here, the flickering blazes showed preparation for cozy dinners and evenings spent with loved ones.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!
It was a great surprise to Scrooge, while thus engaged, to suddenly hear a familiar, hearty laugh. He looked up and found himself in a bright, gleaming room dotted with guests. The source of the laughter emanated from none other than his nephew, Fred.
Why, it's true! It's true!
It is a fair, even-handed, noble adjustment of things that while there is infection in disease and sorrow, there is nothing in the world so irresistibly contagious as laughter and good humor.
He said that Christmas was a humbug, as I live. And he believed it too. He's a comical old fellow, that's the truth. And not so pleasant as he might be. However, his offences carry their own punishment, and I have nothing to say against him.
Well, nothing to say against him, Fred. He's horrid. I bet isn't he very rich? At least you always tell me so.
What of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. He won't do any good with it, and he doesn't make himself comfortable by it. Besides, he definitely hasn't the satisfaction of thinking he's ever going to benefit us with it.
Well, in that case, I have no patience for him.
Oh, I have. I am sorry for him. Who suffers most by his ill whims? Himself, always. He takes it into his head to dislike us, and he won't come and dine with us. But what is the true consequence of that?
Why, a very good meal, I should say.
True. But he also loses joyful moments. Moments that would make far pleasanter companions than his own thoughts. I mean to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not, for I pity him. And he may rail at Christmas till he dies, but he can't help thinking better of it. I defy him. If he finds me going there in good temper year after year and saying, "Uncle Scrooge, how are you?" If it only puts him in the vein to leave his poor clerk £50, that's something.
Well, cheers to that.
Indeed. We should toast to that. And to him.
Bah humbug.
It's true. For he has given us plenty of merriment, I'm sure, and it would be ungrateful not to drink to his health. Cheers to Uncle Scrooge.
To Uncle Scrooge. At the chorus of cheers, Scrooge wiped a small tear from his eyes. His heart felt light and warm.
My dear, dear nephew. God bless you, Fred.
Come, let us go. My time grows short.
Our spirits' lives so fleeting.
My life upon this globe is very brief. It ends tonight.
Tonight?
Indeed. Come, let us visit one more soul.
The spirit led Scrooge out of doors and onto the street, where a heavy snow had begun to fall. As they journeyed further from the comfort of Fred's home, the streets began to change. The lights of Christmas fires became fewer, the voices of merriment disappeared, and brick facades gave way to crumbling plaster. It was outside one of these desolate homes that Scrooge noticed a small, snow-covered shape. He neared the object and was shocked to discover that it was but a child, shivering in the cold.
Spirit, has the child no refuge or resource? Who shall help her?
Are there no prisons?
Spirit, she's but a child. Nothing she has done is deserving of prison.
Are there no workhouses?
Such a place is not fitting for a child. Surely she's not in much. I cannot imagine the weight of her life would be too heavy for us to carry.
This is her fate without any external provision. She cannot work, she cannot feed herself. Would you rather she burden the lives of others?
If she's left all alone, she will die. Surely there's a better way.
I must leave you now. My time is at an end.
Spirit, wait! Do not leave me! Do not leave this child!
Scrooge looked about him for the ghost and saw it not. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, he beheld a solemn phantom. The phantom slowly, gravely, silently approached. It was shrouded in a deep black garment which concealed its head, its face, its form, and left nothing of it visible save one outstretched hand. But for this, it would have been difficult to detach its figure from the night and separate it from the darkness by which it was surrounded. When it came near him, Scrooge bent down upon his knee, for in the very air through which the spirit moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery.
I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come.
The spirit answered not, but pointed onward with its hand.
You shall show me shadows of the things that have not yet happened, but will happen in the time to come. Is that so, spirit?
The upper portion of the garment contracted for an instant in its folds, as if the spirit inclined its head. That was the only answer he received.
Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any other spectre I have seen. But as I know your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to live to be another man from what I was, I am prepared to bear your company and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me? Well then, lead on. Lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me. I know. Lead on, spirit.
They scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to spring up about them and encompass them of its own act. The spirit stopped beside a pair of businessmen. Observing the hand was pointed to them, Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk.
No, I don't know much about it either way. I only know he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
Why? What was the matter with him? I thought he never died.
God knows.
What has been done with his money?
I haven't heard. Left it to his company, perhaps. He hasn't left it to me. That's all I know.
It's likely to be a very cheap funeral, for upon my life, I don't know anybody to go to it. Suppose we make up a party and volunteer.
I don't mind going if lunch is provided.
Spirit, I know these men. Of who do they speak?
Again, the spirit did not answer.
Oi, clear off.
For 15, you can have the lot.
Have you any work? This way, sir, this way.
They left the busy scene for a rather obscure part of town. Scrooge had never been to this place before, but he recognized it for its bad repute. The alleys were narrow and foul, the shops and houses wretched, the people half-naked, drunken, filthy. The whole quarter reeked with crime, with filth and misery. Far in this den of infamous report, there was a low-browed, beetling shop owner who dealt in all the wares most others threw away. Iron, old rags, bottles, bones, greasy offal. Secrets few would like to scrutinize were bred and hidden in mountains of unseemly rags, masses of corrupted fat, and sepulchres of bones.
Hey, don't waste away the stone on my stoop. Get yourself in here if you mean to.
Spirit, does he speak to us?
A woman with a heavy bundle stumbled into the shop.
Ah, Miss Dibler, come, sit you by a fire. Come. What have you got for me today?
Good evening, old Joe. I think you may have heard my old employer has been put to bed with a shovel, did you?
I did hear something in that way. So, you've gone and pitched a few things of his, have you? Not for you, of course. Every person has the right to take care of themselves. Lord knows he did.
That's true indeed. No man more so. My being here is really a judgment on him.
That it is, Miss Dibler, that it is.
Well then, open the bundle, old Joe, and let me know the value of it.
Sure. Bring it here. Are those... Wow, are those bed curtains?
Aye, bed curtains.
You don't mean to say that you took them down, rings and all, while you was lying there getting cold?
Why, Joe? It's like you were right there with me.
Miss Dibler, you were born to make your fortune, and you certainly do it.
Oh, Lord knows I won't hold my hand from reaching out for the sake of a man such as he was. Careful, Joe. Don't let that oil get on the blankets.
His blankets?
Whose else do you think? He isn't likely to take cold without him, I dare say.
Oh, I hope he didn't die of anything catching, eh?
Don't you be afraid of that. I ain't so fond of his company that I'd loiter about him if he did. Ah, yes. You can look through that shirt till your eyes ache, but you won't find a single hole in it, not a threadbare place. It's the best he had, and a fine one too. They'd have wasted it if it weren't for me.
What do you mean, wasted it?
Putting them in to be buried in it, to be sure. Somebody was fool enough to do it, but I took it off again. Calico is too fine to be worn by a man such as him, let alone to waste away alongside his bones in the ground.
Well, you've outdone yourself this time. I always say I'm too kind with the ladies, but you've had it this time, me love.
Thank you, old Joe. This is the end of it, you see. He frightened everyone away from him when he was alive, just to profit us when he was dead.
Spirit! I see. The case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now. Merciful heaven, what is this?
Again, their scenery changed. And now Scrooge stood in a dark room, almost touching a bed. A bare, uncurtained bed. And on it, plundered and bereft, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, was the body of a man. Scrooge glanced toward the phantom. Its steady hand was pointed toward the head. The cover was so carelessly adjusted that the slightest raising of it, the motion of a finger upon Scrooge's part, would have disclosed the face.
Spirit, this is a fearful place, and leaving it, I shall not leave it thus. Trust me, let us go.
Still, the ghost pointed with an unmoved finger to the head.
I understand you, and I would do it if I could. But I have not the power, Spirit. I have not the power. Spirit, please, let me see some tenderness associated with the death. Otherwise, this dark chamber will forever be present with me.
The phantom guided Scrooge through the streets that were familiar to his feet, but he could not find his likeness anywhere they wandered. They came upon Bob Cratchit's home and entered the dwelling that they had visited before, and found the mother and children seated around the fire. Quiet. Very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues in one corner.
I'm beginning to grow tired. But it must be close to your father's time.
Past it, rather. But I think he's walked a little slower than he used to these past few evenings, Mother.
I have known him to walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder very fast indeed.
And so have I, often.
So have I.
Yes, often. Well, he was very light to carry. And his father loved him so that it was no trouble at all. And there's your father. Come in, Bob. Come in. Here, get warm. Take the comforter. Martha, grab some tea for your father, dear.
Thank you, love.
Here you are, Father.
Oh, thank you, Martha.
Are you all right, Father?
Are you tired?
I'm all right. The sewing looks great, girls. I think it will all be ready well before Sunday.
Sunday? So you finished today, then?
Yes, my dear. I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green a place it is. But we'll see it often. I promised him that I would walk there with you all on Sunday. I'm sorry. I did not mean to...
Shh, my love. We've all been holding back tears while you've been gone at the cemetery. I keep looking to his chair, expecting him to be sat in it, and yet...
It's like there's a gap. Something missing. And yet we cannot seem to fill it with activity, with talking. And so we are left, sitting, almost waiting. But there's nothing to wait for.
Well, our Tiny Tim was not one to wait. He was always striving toward the next thing, so we shall do the same.
Yes. Yes, we shall. Oh, Bob, you must be starving. Here, let me fix your plate. Martha brought over a wonderful stew.
Martha, dear, thank you.
It was no trouble, Father. No trouble at all.
My love, I saw Mr. Scrooge's nephew, Fred, on the street on my way home this evening.
Fred, I remember you speaking of him. How is he?
Seeing me on the street, he stopped me and inquired after our family. Seeing that I was just a little down, you know, and he asked me what distressed me. On which, for he is the kindest gentleman you've ever met, I told him of our tiny Tim. He said, I am heartily sorry for you, Mr. Cratchit, and I am heartily sorry for your good wife. Now, it wasn't for the sake of anything he might be able to do for us, so much as for his kind way, that this was quite delightful. It really felt as if he had known our tiny Tim and felt with us.
I'm sure he's a good soul.
You would be sure of it, my dear, if you saw and spoke with him. Promise me now, however and whenever we part from one another, I am sure none of us shall forget poor tiny Tim, shall we? Or this first parting that there was among us?
No.
Never, Father.
No, never, Father.
Oh, poor tiny Tim. Spectre, something informs me that her parting moment is at hand. I know it, but I know not how. Tell me what man that was whom we saw lying dead.
The ghost of Christmas yet to come conveyed him as before, swiftly through the seemingly familiar streets. Scrooge was led to an iron gate and paused to look around before entering. A churchyard. Here, then, the wretched man whose name he had now to learn lay underneath the ground. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one.
Before I draw nearer to that stone, to which point? Answer me one question. Are these the shadows of the things that will be? Or are they the shadows of the things that may be only?
Still, the ghost pointed downward to the grave by which it stood.
Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends to which, if preserved in, they must lead. But if the courses be departed from, the ends will change. Say 'tis thus with what you show me.
The spirit was as immovable as ever. Scrooge crept towards it, trembling as he went, and following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name. Ebeneezer Scrooge.
The man who lay upon the bed. No, spirit, no, spirit, heed me. I am not the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been but for this intervention. Why show me this, if I am past all hope? Good spirit, your nature intercedes for me and pities me. Assure me that I yet may change these shadows you've shown me by an altered life.
The spirit's hand trembled.
I will keep Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me, I may sponge away the writing on the stone.
Holding up his hands in a last prayer, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost.
Spirit, please, I am changed. I am...
But is that? Yes. The bedpost was his own. The bed, his own. The room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own to make amends in.
I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven and the Christmas time be praised for this. I said on my knees, oh, Jacob, on my knees. Oh, my curtains, they are not torn down, rings and all. They are here. I am here. The shadows of the things that would have been may be dispelled. They will be. I know they will. I don't know what to do. I'm as light as a feather. I am as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy. Merry Christmas to all! A Happy New Year to all the world! Woohoo! There's this saucepan that the Gru was in. There's the door by which the ghost of Jacob Marley entered. There's the corner where the ghost of Christmas presents sat. It's all right. It's all true. It all happened.
Really, for a man who'd been out of practice for so many years, it was a splendid laugh, a most illustrious laugh, the father of a long, long line of brilliant laughs.
I don't know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been with the spirits. I'm quite a baby. Oh, never mind. I don't care. It cannot be. Hello? Hi, you there? What day is it, my boy?
What?
The day. What's today, my fine fellow?
Today? Why, it's Christmas Day.
Christmas Day? I haven't missed it. Oh, the spirits have done it all in one night. They can do anything they like. Of course they can. Of course they can. Wait, my fine little fellow.
Yes, sir?
Do you know the butcher in the next street over at the corner?
I should hope I do.
An intelligent boy. A remarkable boy. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? No, not the little prize turkey, but the big one.
What, the one as big as me?
What a delightful boy. It's a pleasure to talk with you. Yes, that's the one.
It's hanging there now.
Is it? Go and buy it.
The prize turkey, sir?
Yes, my boy. Go and buy it, and tell them to bring it here, that I may give them the direction where to take it. Come back with the man, and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown.
Well, sir, I'll be back in quicker than 5.
I'll send it to Bob Cratchit. Oh, he sure know who sent it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim. Ah, here they are with the turkey. You are good on your word, my boy. This turkey is as big as you, and yet you were off like a shot in getting this to me so quickly. Here is that half a crown for you, my fine fellow.
Why, thank you, sir. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Now, this is far too large to carry to Camden Town. I'll call a cab for you men to take it to this address. Deliver it to a one Bob Cratchit, and do not tell him from whom it is from. Thank you, kind sirs. Now, I can't go out on the street in bedclothes. Where is that calico shirt of mine? There we are. What a fine shirt it really is.
He dressed himself in all his best, and after much dancing, made his way at last out onto the street.
Merry Christmas, Mum. Merry Christmas, sir. Oh, Merry Christmas to our little one as well.
Scrooge journeyed through the city with a delighted smile on his face and a Merry Christmas offered to all he passed. He had not gone far when towards him he beheld one of the gentlemen who had entered his establishment the day before and said, "Scrooge and Marley's, I believe." Scrooge quickened his pace to meet him.
My dear sir, how do you do? I hope you succeeded yesterday. It was very kind of you. A Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Mr. Scrooge?
Yes, that is my name, and I fear it may not be pleasant to you. Allow me to ask your pardon, and will you have the goodness to...
Here Scrooge whispered in his ear.
Lord bless me. My dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?
If you please, not a farthing less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. Will you do me the favor of accepting?
My dear sir, I don't know what to say to such generosity.
Don't say anything, please. Come and see me. Will you come and see me, man?
I will.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm much obliged to you. I thank you 50 times. Bless you.
Scrooge continued on his way, and he turned his steps towards his nephew's house. He passed the door 12 times before he had the courage to go up and knock. Finally, he made a dash and did it.
Why, Uncle!
Hello, Fred. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Uncle. Please, come in. Lily, come meet my Uncle Scrooge. Here, Uncle, let me take your coat and hat.
Uncle Scrooge? It's so lovely to meet you. I wondered when I would finally make your acquaintance.
Thank you, Fred. And, yes, my dear, I have stayed away for far too long. But it is lovely to meet you. I hope I can still join you for Christmas dinner.
Join us? Uncle, you are now the guest of honor. Come, sit by the fire and enjoy a little bite as we finish preparing the table.
Scrooge could not remember a Christmas dinner as wonderful as the one he shared with Fred and his family that night. He realized during that meal that Fred's laugh sounded just like his sister Fan's, and it was as if she too had joined them for this meal.
There's 3 more in the back, Uncle. Anything you like.
Scrooge got to the office early the next day. He planned to be the first there and catch Bob Cratchit coming late. That was the thing he had set his heart upon. And he did it. Yes, he did. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1:15. No Bob. He was a full 18.5 minutes behind his time.
Well, what do you mean by coming here at this time of day?
I am very sorry, sir. I am behind on my time.
Yes, you are. Step this way, please.
It's only once a year, sir. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir.
Now, I'll tell you what, Bob. I am not going to stand this sort of thing any longer, and therefore I'm about to raise our salary.
Please, sir, I did not mean... Wait, a raise, sir?
Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas than I have given you for many a year, my good fellow. I'll raise your salary and I'll endeavor to assist you and your family. We will discuss your affairs this very afternoon over both Christmas stew. Make up the fires and buy another coal scuttle before you dot another I, Bob.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew. It was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well if any man alive possessed such knowledge. May that truly be said of us, and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed,
God bless us, everyone.
Thank you for listening in and for keeping Christmas well yourself. This production of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol was adapted by Lauren Zabilski and Helena Miller. It was produced by Mad Company and directed by Maddie Albrechts. Our cast includes Andres Robledo, Elizabeth Ann Rimar, Garvey X. Dobbins, James Kay, Keara Dooley, Margeaux Lampley, and Peter Carellini, with sound design by Carlos Fonseca. Check out Mad Company's page for more immersive creative tales.